Fiancée asked for a break to reconnect with her cheating ex. I changed the locks, sold my house, and disappeared. It's been about 9 months now, and her entire life has unraveled. I'm 33 years old, and for the most part, my life was pretty steady. I had a clear idea of where I was headed, and things seemed to be lining up just how I envisioned. The main person in this story, aside from me, is my former fiancée, Emily. Back then, she was 31. We'd been in a relationship for a little over 4 years and had been engaged for the last 12 months of it. We were living in a house that I had bought before we ever got engaged. The place was solely under my name, something I had decided early on based on my finances and some help I'd received from my family. That purchase was made long before Emily became a serious part of my life. She ended up moving in with me roughly 2 years after we started dating. A few other people show up in this story too. One of them is Emily's ex, a guy named Ryan. From what Emily told me, she was with him before she met me, and their relationship ended because he cheated on her. At least, that's the version I got. As things played out, Emily's family, her parents and her younger sister Lily, also got pulled into the mess, or at the very least became aware of it. At the beginning, though, it really felt like Emily and I had something solid. We met through a mutual friend, dated for about a year before deciding to move in together, and a couple years after that, I asked her to marry me. Our relationship looked like it was built on common ground, shared interests, goals, and what I honestly thought was genuine respect. Emily always knew where I stood financially. The house we lived in was something I paid for using both my personal savings and a portion of an inheritance I received from my grandparents. It was a cozy, 3-bedroom place in the suburbs, nothing extravagant, but plenty of space for us and the future we were starting to picture, marriage, and maybe kids somewhere down the line. Emily did help out with some of the regular bills like groceries and utilities, but she didn't have any ownership in the house itself, and that was something we both understood clearly from the start. There were never any disputes about that. As for Ryan, he was just a part of her past that I thought I understood. Emily had always been upfront about her past with Ryan. According to her, they were together for nearly 2 years, and it ended badly after she found out he had been cheating on her repeatedly. She talked often about the pain he caused and how deeply deceived she felt by him. From everything she shared, I believe that chapter of her life was long closed. Old wounds that had already healed, especially with us being engaged and sharing a home and future. But looking back, things started shifting around 7 months before everything blew up. It was subtle at first. I began noticing little changes in how she talked and carried herself. Ryan, who used to be just a distant memory and a reminder of hurt, suddenly started popping up more often in our conversations. She'd mentioned seeing something he posted online or hearing his name through an old friend of a friend. At first, I brushed it off. People from our past can randomly show up in our social feeds or thoughts. No big deal. But as time went on, these casual references turned into more frequent mentions. Emily would bring up what-ifs about her past, sometimes wondering how things might have gone if she'd made different choices. I started sensing a restlessness in her, like she was mentally somewhere else. She'd spend more time glued to her phone, looking distant and lost in thought after scrolling or texting. When I asked if something was bothering her, she'd usually chalk it up to work stress or just feeling worn out. Then, around 4 months before she asked for the break, Emily told me that Ryan had reached out directly. According to her, he messaged her to apologize for how things ended, saying he regretted how he treated her and had gone through some big personal changes. She claimed she was caught off guard but curious. She framed it as her needing closure, that hearing him out might help her truly move on. I remember telling her that closure is something we find within ourselves, not from the same person who once deceived us. Still, I didn't forbid her from talking to him. I believe that a relationship built on trust shouldn't involve laying down rules about who your partner can or can't speak to. I did, however, share that I was uncomfortable given their history. In the weeks that followed, it became obvious this wasn't just a one-time message. Emily started texting into the night and even stepped out of the room to take calls. When I brought it up, she admitted they'd been talking more and more. She said Ryan sounded sincere, like a different man now, full of regrets and trying to make amends. She began reminiscing about the things they used to share, trips, jokes, little moments from years ago. It was like she was rewriting their history, not as painful, but as something almost sweet. That shift was jarring. She went from remembering him as someone who had deceived her to viewing their past with a sort of rosy filter. What really set off alarm bells was when she started comparing her time with Ryan to her life with me. She'd say stuff like, "Our life is stable and comfortable," but then question whether that was really what she wanted in the long run. And what made it worse? Stability and comfort were things we both claimed to value, the very foundation of the life we'd been building. I tried to have open, honest conversations with her. I asked what had changed and if something was missing in our relationship. Her answers were all over the place. She'd say she loved me, that our life was good, but then immediately add that she wasn't sure if she was happy. And more, she'd bring up Ryan and those lingering what-if thoughts. At that point, I realized she was either seriously torn or maybe being pulled back into a familiar dynamic with him. The week before she officially asked for space, she told me she had plans to meet Ryan for coffee, just to talk and finally get closure. She said it like it was no big deal. I didn't stop her, but I told her honestly, I wasn't okay with it. Given everything that had been happening, her doubts, her distance, I felt like that meeting would only make things worse. She went anyway. When she came back, something had shifted. She was cold, distant, and gave me very little about how the conversation went. All she said was that it had been interesting and that Ryan really had grown. For the next few days, the energy in our home was heavy. Something was off, and we both felt it. Then came the Saturday morning that changed everything. I had made plans for us to spend the day together, maybe go on a hike, grab lunch, just reconnect. But before we even left the house, the same living room where we'd once excitedly talked about our wedding and future kids, she dropped it. She started by saying how much she appreciated me and everything we had built. Then she shifted. She said she was feeling lost and confused. She admitted that seeing Ryan again stirred up old emotions and made her question whether walking away from him had been a mistake, or whether she needed to explore if something still existed between them now that he claimed to be a different person. Then she asked for a break. She was very specific. She said she wanted to step back from our relationship for a while, a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, to explore her feelings and see if there was still something between her and Ryan. She told me she could stay with her younger sister Lily for a while, or maybe find a short-term rental. During that time, she wanted the freedom to date Ryan, not because she was sure about him, but to figure out if what she felt was something real or just old memories messing with her head. She stressed that she wasn't trying to walk away from our relationship completely, just that she needed time and space to sort through her emotions before we got married. In her words, this exploration could either help her realize Ryan was a closed chapter or somehow make her a better partner to me. She said it might bring clarity and, in the end, strengthen what we had. She asked me to be patient. She wanted me to understand. I sat there listening without cutting her off. But in my head, all I could hear was my fiancée asking to put our life, and our engagement, on pause so she could test drive a relationship with the same guy who had once cheated on her. While she framed it as a temporary timeout for self-discovery, I saw it for what it really was, a direct hit to the commitment we had promised each other. When she finished laying it all out, I didn't get into some drawn-out emotional back and forth. I just asked her a few clear questions to make sure I hadn't misunderstood. She confirmed, flat out, that she intended to pursue something romantic, and most likely physical, with Ryan during this break. That was how she'd figure out if he really had changed. My response was firm, but calm. I told her that if she needed to try things out with another man, then as far as I was concerned, we were done. I wasn't going to stand by while she experimented with someone else. I wasn't going to be the backup option, the guy she returned to if things didn't work out. I made it clear I wasn't going to wait around while she decided between me and the man who once deceived her. I told her, straight up, that just asking for this break showed a serious lack of respect, not just for me, but for the promises we were getting ready to make. To me, our relationship was over, effective immediately. She looked stunned, maybe because she thought I'd try to talk her out of it or beg her to stay. Instead, she tried to spin it differently, saying I'd misunderstood, that this wasn't about not loving me, it was just about her being confused. I repeated myself. The moment she decided to explore something with another man, she ended what we had. She didn't expect that. I could see it on her face. She scrambled to walk it back, saying maybe she didn't really need the break or maybe we could talk more. But the line had been crossed. Her intent was clear, and that was enough for me. I told her that whatever trust and commitment I thought we had was gone the moment she made that request. I let her know that if she needed space to figure things out with Ryan, She could have all the space in the world, just not under my roof. I said it was time for her to make arrangements to move her stuff. Whether she stayed with Lily or found another place, she wouldn't be living with me anymore. That same Saturday afternoon, after she left, clearly shaken and emotional, I got to work. I wasn't acting out of anger. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just saw the situation clearly for what it was. Our relationship was finished, and so was the future we'd planned. That meant it was time to start untangling our lives. The first thing I did was call a locksmith. By that evening, every lock in the house had been changed. It was my home, legally, financially, and entirely mine. She had no claim to it. The next step, over the rest of the weekend, was to prep the house for sale. I started by gathering up Emily's personal things, the easy stuff. Her clothes, cosmetics, a few random decorations we'd picked out together. I boxed them all up neatly and stored them in the garage so she could pick them up later. Then I began decluttering the space, stripping away anything too personal so the house would show better. Monday morning, I reached out to a highly rated local real estate agent. I gave them the short version of the situation. I was newly single and had to sell the place fast because I was pursuing a new out-of-state job opportunity. That was partly true. I immediately started reaching out to contacts in my professional circle to find something new, somewhere far from all of this. The agent moved quickly, and the house was listed within a few days. Luckily, the market was still solid, and things looked promising. At the same time, I began my job search in a different state, determined to start fresh. For a while now, I've been tossing around the idea of a career change, not urgently, but I was open to something new. This whole situation pushed that decision into motion. I updated my resume, touched base with old contacts, and sent out applications to companies in a city on the opposite coast, a place with a booming industry and a totally different vibe. I needed a clean slate. One thing I hadn't anticipated getting emotional over was the cloud drive we shared. It held years' worth of memories, photos, documents, backups. I went through everything, downloaded what was mine, and anything I had a right to keep. Then, methodically, I revoked her access and wiped the shared folders. It felt like digitally cutting the final thread between us. I kept communication with Emily to a minimum. When she messaged me in shock about the locks being changed, I replied via text. I told her plainly, the relationship was over, the house was being sold, and she needed to coordinate with either my realtor or a trusted friend to collect her things. I didn't get into a back and forth. I made it clear that moving forward, any conversation between us would be strictly logistical. As expected, she didn't take it well. She was furious, calling me cold and impulsive. She claimed she had just been confused and insisted I was blowing everything out of proportion. But I wasn't interested in justifying my actions. I'd made my decision, and I was sticking to it. The real estate market was on my side. Thanks to the house's condition, location, and an aggressive pricing strategy, we got a solid offer in under 2 weeks, cash, just slightly under asking, and completely clean. I accepted without hesitation. The closing was set for 30 days later. During that time, Emily kept trying to reach me. Her messages piled up, texts, calls, emails. I ignored most of them. When things started to turn emotional or outright nasty, I blocked her number and email. I blocked her on every social platform too. I asked my realtor to handle everything related to her stuff. Eventually, Emily came by with Lily to collect her belongings. I wasn't there. The house closed right on schedule, about 6 weeks after Emily first asked for a break. By that point, I had already accepted a job offer in my new state. It came with a relocation package, which helped move things along. I sold most of the furniture, put the essentials in storage, packed up my car, and hit the road. I drove across the country and didn't look back. Once I arrived, things moved fast. I landed in a temporary apartment, started the new job, and focused on settling in. The work was stimulating, the city felt fresh, and I even reconnected with a couple of old college buddies who lived nearby. I kept my focus forward, not on what had happened, but on what I was building. I didn't spend much time thinking about Emily or what we had. The only thing I took from it all was a sharper sense of what my boundaries are and what I'll never tolerate again. It's been about 9 months since I made that move. I've settled into the new role. It challenges me and gives me a sense of purpose. I've found a more permanent place to live. I'm not going to pretend I'm thriving in some dramatic, life-changing way, but I'm doing okay. I'm grounded, stable, moving forward, even if the path looks different from what I'd originally imagined. So why am I writing all this now? Because over the last couple of months, bits and pieces of Emily's story have found their way back to me, mostly through Lily, who reached out, and partly through a few loose professional connections from my old city. From what I've been told, Emily's time with Ryan didn't turn into the great rediscovery she thought it would. It crashed hard and fast. Apparently, Ryan was still very much the same man he used to be. He was either seeing other women or slipped right back into his old ways the moment Emily became available. 2 months after she asked me for space, Ryan called it off. According to Lily, he told Emily he wasn't looking for anything serious, that her emotional state and expectations were too much for him. In the end, she got discarded by the very man she had walked away from me to chase. After that, things got rough for her. She had nowhere to land. The house was gone. Our relationship was done. She was staying with Lily, but that situation became tense too. Emily was spiraling emotionally and, from what Lily said, kept blaming everyone but herself, claiming I had overreacted or that Ryan had deceived her again. Lily also told me their parents got involved. They were disappointed, deeply. Apparently, they liked me and were genuinely looking forward to the wedding. They had always known Ryan wasn't a good fit, based on Emily's previous mess with him. So this whole thing for them felt like watching their daughter make the same mistake twice, but with even bigger consequences this time. When her family learned the full story, that Emily had asked for a break just to see where things might go with Ryan, that I ended our engagement, and sold the house, they actually sided with me. From what Lily told me, they believed Emily had thrown away a solid future out of impulsiveness and poor judgment. They didn't keep their opinions to themselves either. Her parents confronted her directly and made it clear they disapproved of how she handled everything. Then came the next bit of news. Emily lost her job. The exact reasons weren't fully explained, but based on what I heard, the emotional mess she was in had started bleeding into her work. Missed deadlines, spotty attendance, maybe even a lack of focus. Either way, she ended up unemployed. At that point, the dominoes had fully toppled. Ryan dumped her. Her relationship with Lily became strained. Her parents were disappointed, and now she had no job. From what I understand, she's either couch surfing or relying on short-term charity from friends. Lily eventually asked her to find another place to stay, even she had hit her limit. When Lily first reached out to me, she said she wanted to apologize on Emily's behalf. She also told me her parents regretted how everything had unfolded and wanted me to know they didn't stand behind Emily's actions. I was caught off guard by the conversation. I mostly just listened. And now, the begging has started. Emily's been trying to contact me using every workaround she can think of, making new social media accounts, calling from numbers I don't recognize, sending long messages before I can block her again. The messages that slip through always sound the same. She's sorry, she wants a second chance, she needs help. Sometimes it's emotional support, sometimes it's money, sometimes she just wants to talk. She said she realizes the mistake she made. She says she regrets everything. Let me be crystal clear. I'm not here asking anyone if I should give her another shot. That door isn't just closed, it's welded shut. The whole building was demolished, and the ground paved over. I made my decision back then, and I haven't wavered since. I'm sharing all of this here, laying it out publicly, mostly just to get it off my chest. It's not advice I'm after. I follow a strict no-contact policy, and I intend to keep it that way. Update 1. It's been about 3 weeks since I first posted. I've read through a lot of the comments and private messages. Thanks to everyone who took the time to respond, especially those who shared similar stories or words of support. I appreciate it more than I expected. There were a few common questions, so I'll clarify here. First, a lot of people asked about the house. As I mentioned earlier, I own that place outright. I bought it well before Emily and I even got engaged. The down payment came from my savings and a portion of an inheritance. Her name wasn't on the deed, the mortgage, or any ownership paperwork. She helped cover basic living expenses, groceries, the power bill, that kind of thing, the same way any partner or roommate would. But those contributions didn't give her any legal claim to the property or tenancy rights. Once she made it clear that she wanted to pursue a relationship with someone else, the very foundation of her living in my home ceased to exist. As for her belongings, I boxed them up neatly and gave her a fair chance to pick them up. She came by with Lily and collected everything. There was no shouting, no drama, no illegal eviction, just the necessary end to something that had already fallen apart. The reason I had the locks changed was simple. It was to protect my property during the sale process, and it happened after our relationship had ended, definitively. That was my home, and the decision wasn't about punishment. It was about security and moving forward. Now, some people questioned how quickly I made my decision. But here's the thing. Emily's request for a break didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't some heat-of-the-moment lapse or emotional outburst. It was the final step in a weeks-long progression. She'd been growing distant. She'd started reconnecting with Ryan. She'd been voicing doubts about our relationship more and more often. And when she finally laid it all out, it wasn't about needing time to think alone or reflect in silence. It was about creating space so she could actively date and sleep with her ex. She said it plainly. This wasn't me misunderstanding or reading between the lines. She told me exactly what she planned to do. So my response was just as clear. I wasn't going to hang around as someone's backup plan. I wasn't going to be the safe, stable guy she fell back on if things didn't work out with the one who had already deceived her once. I have more respect for myself than that, and frankly, anyone would deserve better than to be treated that way. Lily, Emily's sister, was the first person in her family to get the full picture. After our last conversation, Emily went to stay with Lily. Naturally, Lily asked what had happened. At first, Emily tried to make it sound like I had blown things out of proportion, like I had flipped out over a simple request for space. But Lily knows her sister. She pushed for the full story. And eventually, Emily admitted what the space was really about, reconnecting with Ryan on a romantic and physical level. Lily didn't buy into it. She's a straight shooter, practical and grounded. She already knew Ryan's track record and, apparently, had warned Emily against getting back in touch with him in the first place. She filled in their parents, and Emily later confirmed it herself. That's when her parents made their stance clear. According to Lily, they had always respected me. They saw me as a solid, dependable presence in Emily's life, someone who could offer stability and a good future. And they were no strangers to Ryan's past deceptions. They had witnessed the chaos he brought the first time around. So, from their point of view, Emily's choice to gamble her future with me for another shot at a failed relationship wasn't brave, it was reckless. And my actions afterward? Ending the relationship, selling the house, moving on, those weren't seen as the cause of the collapse. They were simply the natural fallout from Emily's original decision. Their disappointment rested solely on her shoulders, not mine. Lastly, some folks found it surprising how quickly I moved, how fast I sold the house, found a new job, and relocated. But that's just how I operate. I plan. I act. I don't sit in limbo. The job search wasn't something I pulled out of thin air. I've been thinking about switching things up for months. What happened with Emily just lit the fire under those plans. The real estate market was hot, and I priced the house to move. I wasn't trying to squeeze every last dollar out of it. I wanted speed, simplicity, and a clean break. The goal all along was simple. A clean, fast break from the life I had with Emily. Nothing I did came from panic or impulse. Every step was deliberate. After I made my original post, Emily kept trying to reach out for a while. The messages trickled in through different channels, sometimes in waves. Eventually, they started to slow down, but only after I sent a very clear message through a mutual acquaintance. This was someone I trusted, a former colleague she'd also contacted in an attempt to get through to me. I asked him to tell her plainly. There would be no second chances, no conversations, and no door left ajar. Any further attempts to contact me would be viewed as harassment. I also told him to make it clear that I didn't harbor personal hatred toward her, but that her life, her choices, and whatever consequences followed were hers to deal with. I wouldn't be a part of it. That message was the only indirect communication I've made since cutting contact. After that, I doubled down on protecting my privacy. I changed my main phone number, not exactly fun, but it had to be done. I tightened the security on all my accounts and made sure every possible connection that could lead her back to me was severed. A week or so ago, Lily reached out again, unprompted, with another update. She told me a few more things about what had been going on. Apparently, after Ryan ended things with Emily, he made no effort to be discreet. Word got around quickly in their shared circles. He reportedly said Emily was too intense and stuck in the past, which only added to her humiliation. Her professional situation hadn't improved either. She'd been trying to land a new job, but nothing had panned out. According to Lily, it seemed her prior dismissal was related to personal issues bleeding into her work, unprofessional behavior, emotional instability, maybe even missing deadlines or showing up late. That, along with her scattered focus during applications and interviews, made things worse. The most telling detail Lily shared was about Emily's brief stay with their parents. She had moved in for a short time, but even that didn't last. Her parents offered her a roof, but not a free pass. Lily said they were clear with Emily. She needed to own her mistakes, consider therapy to work through her patterns, and take real steps to rebuild her life instead of blaming others or hunting for a shortcut. Emily didn't take that well. Tensions rose, and within a few weeks, she left. When Lily last spoke to me, she wasn't sure where Emily was staying. She only knew she had ended up crashing with an old college friend and was still struggling. Lily sounded worn down. She was frustrated and tired of feeling stuck in the middle of something she didn't cause. But even so, she made it clear that both she and her parents believed Emily needed to face the consequences of her decisions head-on. There were no more excuses and no more enabling. Lily also repeated that neither she nor her family held any ill will toward me. In fact, they wished me well. I appreciated that and thanked her for the update, but I didn't ask for more. I want to draw a firm line under this whole thing. My life is no longer connected to Emily's, and I'm doing everything I can to keep it that way. Update 2. It's been roughly 6 months since I shared that last update, and around 7 months since the original post. A lot of time has passed, and both our lives have continued in very different directions. As for me, I'm doing well. I've found solid footing in this new chapter. Work has been steady and rewarding. I've taken on more responsibility and joined a few exciting projects that I'm genuinely passionate about. Life here has settled into something steady and good. I've found a rhythm that works for me, built a routine, made a few new friends, and taken time to explore more of the area around me. This city? It feels like home now. Not just a place I moved to, a place I chose, and one that's welcomed me. Everything that happened last year, all of it, feels more distant with each passing month. It's not erased, but it doesn't weigh me down anymore. I don't sit around thinking about Emily, and I rarely revisit that chapter of my life unless prompted. My focus has been, and continues to be, forward. I'm not seeing anyone new right now, and that's by choice. I'm happy in this current phase, putting time and energy into my career, exploring personal interests, and rebuilding things on my terms. As for Emily, I've received little to no new information in quite a while, thankfully. Lily seemed to pick up on my unspoken boundary about updates and hasn't contacted me in months. I've had no messages or attempts at contact from Emily or her family. However, about 2 months ago, one final bit of information reached me through the same former colleague who helped relay my no-contact message to Emily early on. He reached out for work-related reasons, and during our conversation, hesitantly, and only after asking if I wanted to hear it, he passed along something he'd learned. Apparently, Emily left the state. He wasn't sure where exactly she went. From what he gathered, after running out of places to stay, and with her family staying firm on their expectations, she either moved in with a distant relative or went somewhere new to start over, a clean slate, away from anyone who knew her story. He didn't know the full details, and honestly, I didn't ask for more. That news didn't shake me. It didn't spark any strong reaction at all. If anything, it just made sense. In her situation, trying to disappear into a new city where no one recognized her might have seemed like the only option left. Since that moment, there's been complete silence. No new profiles, no messages, no attempts to call. Changing my number and being vigilant about cutting off suspicious contact has paid off. I've created distance, not just physically, but emotionally and digitally. My life has continued to unfold along the path I've chosen. Selling the house, making the move, starting fresh with a new job, all of it was part of a plan to build a new foundation, and I've done that. This will likely be my last update. From where I stand, there's nothing left to say. The story has reached its natural conclusion, and the information pipeline regarding Emily has, thankfully, run dry, just as I'd hoped. The point of sharing all this in the first place was to document what happened, the events, the choices, and the results. That's done now. The book is closed.